Hello, I'm Professor Margaret Rogers Van Coops, and today I'd like to give you a little talk about the difference between medical psychology and psychiatry and metaphysical psychometry is a part of what we do in terms of everything we understand about ourselves metaphysically. But I want to move away from that word and come back into the metaphysician kind of thing that most of us who are psychic counselors, healers, coaches, what we like to do and how we help in our way is very different from the way a medical doctor would treat a patient. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the circumstances in a medical doctor's office. You arrive, they ask you to fill out a form telling you all the conditions that you know consciously you've had to deal with, such as issues with family, issues with work, and so on. And of course, your medical background in terms of operations and things like that. They ask you if you've been smoking, using marijuana or other drugs, street drugs, and so on. And when you go into the doctor, he will do your blood pressure and generally check your vitals. And then he'll talk to you a little bit and within 10 or 15 minutes made up his mind that you need a tranquilizer or some kind of stronger drug that will make you dozy and sleepy so that you can't really think about who you are or what you're doing. And unfortunately, after that, you'll be booked in to come in for 15 to half an hour's talking to see how you're doing. And as you come in each time, they're usually pressured because there are other people all lined up after you or before you. And so you might get in late and you might get out early. And you feel when you walk away that you haven't really had anybody ask you the real questions, the real issues about how you're feeling and what you're going through. Of course, then it's, okay, how are you doing on the drugs? Well, you know, I'm dozy, blah, 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 you tell them. And then they say, well, you have to keep on this drug for a while because it's going to take time for your brain to rest and heal and so on. And so they give you more drugs, you go home, you take them, you get into a habit taking them, and the next thing you know, you're addicted to them. By then, your mind has gone into a roller coaster of ups and downs, that things are bad, not good. You feel left out in the cold and wonder what you're doing with this person. And if you have no consciousness about alternative medicine, then you will just be stuck in the rut of being treated by a psychologist who was caring about you but not giving you the full time and the correct treatments that you need. So now, having explained all that, and it does sound like I'm really against it, which I'm not, because it's better to have someone rather than no one. What we really need to understand too is about medical doctors is that if you are with a psychologist for X number of times, there comes a point where they see no progress that they'll roll you over to a psychiatrist. And then when you get into that road, you're being typecast into whether you're paranoid, schizophrenic, rigid mind. There's 5 or 6 different categories they'll put you under. Some people are even told they've got all 5 of the categories. And I don't really want to worry you with all of that right now. But I want you to understand that when you get to become with a psychiatrist, the ultimate thing is they could decide to put you into a mental institute for some kind of recovery and more drugs and things like that. And as time goes by, you get used to being in that place. And for some people, they never get out. So I say to you, is that really what you would want? I don't think so. So now let me explain about metaphysical psychology and psychiatry. We come from entirely different space, because all the people that are into metaphysical things are, in the primary sense of themselves, usually very psychic. And being very psychic, what does that mean? It means they have the gift and the ability to be able to know you instantly, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually in some way, shape, or form, according to their own history. Most people who are psychic are ostracized, cast out, especially for me, my younger generation, because I was born in 1942. Yes, I'm nearly 80. And the main thing to understand here is that in those days, the doctors were doing electrical brain treatments, and in extreme cases, lobotomy, which means they were drilling a hole in the brain, prodding around with a hot iron to kill off some nerves. Now, of course, in those days, they really didn't know the brain at all. We've come a long way since then. So many of the people who were in a permanent mental institute never came out, because after those kinds of treatment, they were sort of vegetables compared with how they'd been before, where they'd been driven by anger and fear and these kinds of things. So today, metaphysical psychology and psychiatry is very different. And I'm fortunate enough to have walked the pathway of seeing the old institutes and the way things were done in England, breaking away from all that, listening to my spirit guides who taught me a great deal about the brain and so much more that I haven't got time to tell you here, but I've made it a study throughout my life. And I hope you'll see me as someone who's got all my marbles together, as we say in England, meaning I'm focused, I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm doing, my body is fit and strong, I have no maladies whatsoever. However, I will tell you that in my 37th year, I had a breakdown because of pills that I was given, and died actually, and they had to resuscitate me. And also, they put me on pills at the time. What did I know? I was still questioning who am I and what's going down. But what I didn't know was that I had developed Parkinson's disease. And just to prove a point, no Parkinson's disease today. That was the turning point in my life to understand that I needed to stop just being a medium, proving survival of life after death, and instead move into understanding how the entire body is controlled by the brain and how the brain works. So here's a short outline for you. You know about your conscious mind, and you know that you can think good or bad thoughts, and you know that when you have those thoughts, you're either happy or sad or miserable or focused on doing something that you love to do. Now, the next part of the brain to understand in my research over the years, and you have to remember back in those days, nobody talked about the subconscious. So I was listening to my spirit guides who were teaching me how the subconscious works. And over the years, I have downloaded a great deal of information. So the subconscious is basically a filing box, and in it are nothing but images, pictures of things that you've seen throughout your life. Attached to those pictures are the feelings that you had during the time of seeing. Now, if you think about the fact that you have good vision, or that you have glasses or whatever, you still can see. But what about the people who are born blind? Their sensitivity to their environment comes through the psychic sense of psychometry. Psychometry is the sense of feeling energies that surround your aura and your body. So when you're with someone who's negative, without even knowing why, you feel that negativity and your alarm button goes on. So whether you're seeing or blind, you will have that sense. Now, for a blind person, they need to know how to walk around their house, go up the street, do whatever they want to do. So as time goes by with training, they learn with their stick to be able to walk about and be as independent as they can be using psychometry. The difference for them is they don't have any images, so they are relying on hearing. And when they hear sounds, those sounds reverberate within their brain to give them an understanding this is good or bad emotionally. They can feel the tones, the resonations, because tones and resonations are sounds that reverberate in psychometry throughout your body. Now, let's go back to you're a seeing person, and when you see these happenings, your brain is running at 286,000 miles per second, just like the light does travel throughout the cosmos. And so you cannot really catch yourself remembering on a conscious level all the images of everybody and everything you've ever seen throughout your life, let alone over the next 5 or 10 minutes. So we did some research back in the days when I would ask people to do something like walk around a room and just notice things, and give them about 10 minutes, and then I'd say, okay, sit down, tell me what you noticed. And the first thing that happened would be they'd and ah, and you could see their eyes go up into their head like this, because that's where memory is, and try and recall some of the things around the room. And of course, I'd set up a premise that they should not peep, not try and see them again. And usually they'll be able to remember about 5 images in the room. Now, if you just are sitting in your living room or somewhere and you look around at all the belongings and all the things you have in that room, I'm sure that you have to dig into your long-term memory to take a photo of that room that you're thinking about and then reminisce on how it was. Now, if you've happened to change your furniture around, or you've brought something new or sent something away, your brain will remember those incidents and pull them up for you. Those are long-term memories. Now, when we talk about someone trying to remember their history, for example, Mum always shouted at me, or Dad hit me, or Auntie Sally, she was so kind, she always gave me strawberries every Sunday. Whatever it is that you remember like that, those are long-term memories. And the thing about pulling up those memories is that the conscious mind will adapt them to the current situation. So if I remember Auntie giving me strawberries, then what happens is I'll add to that my taste of strawberries, my memory of sour ones versus sweet ones, and I will embellish that memory with the consciousness that I have today, and that will slide back into the subconscious as another photo, another file that has been buried somewhere within all the other photos and files that you've kept throughout your life. So recall is not necessarily always the truth. Now, a psychic, when they're reading you, working with you, helping you, will be using psychometry to feel your aura. At the same time, they're going to be making comparisons with their own life. And you probably already know that most people who are psychic have a working knowledge of their own pain and suffering throughout their lives. So there is an immediate sense of affinity here in that I know how you feel because I've been through it. This makes them sensitive to you and wanting to be with you, not to just rush you through 15, 20 minutes of hypnosis or something, but rather to really know you more. So a metaphysician, which is what I am, and a professor and a doctor, then what we do is we have to do an intake. And when I say an intake, I am going to ask you all sorts of questions about your memories, your life, the surgeries, the illnesses, the diseases, the different types of work you've done, the list goes on. And sometimes I can be talking through all that, well, when you were there, it's because I'm getting something from that person's spirit guides. When this happened to you, you were knocked unconscious and you were out for 1 hour, and you don't know that they were doing this and this and this. And people say, oh, wow, I had a dream about that, but I didn't think it was real. You see, well, there's so many things that happen to us when we're in a sleep mode, when we're in a coma, when we're given injections to knock us out temporarily while somebody repairs some part of our body. And this is the medical world that you need to go through. But once you get out, you don't remember everything. You're wondering what has actually happened in your life and why it's hurting so much, and why the family are all fussing too much, or why they're not giving you enough attention, and so on. So all these things are also added on to the time when you're finding yourself going round in circles with fear, pain, anger, guilt, and states of loss. No one actually can tell you what you were thinking and what you were feeling at that time, because we're all very unique. But your metaphysician will be able to identify with all the things that you've been through, because they've probably been through very similar things themselves, and have a working knowledge of how we process ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So coming back to me working with someone, if I'm doing the intake and I'm also channeling your spirit guides, I'm going to be telling you information around your events that you had no idea about. And in the process of that, I'm going to be telling you how you were thinking, feeling, and what was actually done to your body. So, for example, if you had surgery, you just know you recovered and they said, oh, we put your spine back in alignment or took a bone out or something. But when you're working with a metaphysician, they're going to be able to tell you biochemically, biologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, all that happened to you during that surgery. Now, that might seem amazing to you, but you see, the oneness, your spirit guides are watching, taking care of you, looking after you during that process, and also inspiring the doctors and nurses and people who attend you to do the right thing for you. They may not even know they're being inspired. They may not even know they have a little bit of psyche going on in their consciousness. To them, it's just a feeling that I need to do this for that person. So we're not putting them down. But what we are saying is there's more. And so coming to see a metaphysician and a therapist and a counselor and a teacher is going to help you understand your state of mind consciously and subconsciously. But more importantly, eventually when you're ready, to take you into your deep subconscious. Your deep subconscious is where you process your sight, it's at the back of the head here, your hearing, which also runs back there, your sensitivity to touch, your awareness of everything on your head, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your hearing, is all going into your brain, processing everything that's happening to you, even when you're knocked out under anesthesia and being operated on. You think you don't know what's happening, but your deep subconscious does. So while they're cutting you open or doing whatever, your conscious mind has no connection with the pain or the suffering that's going on during that time. However, your deep subconscious does know and is monitoring and keeping you in balance so that you don't wake up and don't feel that pain. However, I have heard of cases where people have been on the table and being worked on with major surgery and suddenly opened their eyes and said, it hurts, don't do it, and then gone back to sleep again. So you see, sometimes the deep subconscious can interrupt and push it all the way to the conscious mind to allow a person to wake up that minute to say, you're not doing the right thing. Well, what happened years ago was doctors just thought, oh, that's an anomaly, give her more drugs. But today, doctors are realizing that what they say around a person is heard by that person. So if they're saying, oh, this kidney is really messed up and it looks terrible, we've got to cut it out, they're hearing that. And so they've now learned to play music and not talk about their personal lives, but not talk too harshly about what they're doing to you. And so, people are coming through surgery a lot better today, thank goodness. However, after the surgery is done and you've recovered and you're walking and out and about again, all the experiences that you've been through from the cause of the illness, the surgery, the recovery, and so forth, is still within your brain. And so you need to be able to see a counselor, a coach, even a psychic, to help you delete whatever was done during a surgery. Now that may sound complicated enough, but if we add to that many, many, many circumstances throughout your life, for example, standing in front of a teacher when you're 6, being told off, and feeling you want to go potty and wet your knickers or something, to running around crying because the other kids are bullying you, to going home and mummy's on the phone and can't pay attention to you when you just want to tell her some exciting news, to going onto daddy's lap and hoping he'll give you a tickle and a cuddle, only to be told, get off, daddy's got to go out to work now. Abandonment. You'd be amazed just how many things go on while we're in the first 5 years of life where we are learning to understand this world, and from our emotional point of view, really logging every feeling into a category of 5. I hear, I see, I feel, I touch, and I bodily have my functions. I have to control them in order to fit in with society. I can't pee my pants, I can't throw up in public, I need the bathroom, and so on. So there are many situations that we pass through in our life where psychologically we are demoralized by ourselves. We feel embarrassed, we worry, we consciously justify our decisions that we've made, even though we may know that we're rationalizing in a way outside of the box, which to the regular public is putting us off the wall, as it were, a bit stupid or a bit brilliant and therefore unapproachable. And so we feel isolated, we feel neglected, we feel lost. Then we've got violence around, siblings hit us, kids at school hit us, or even worse, mother and father are totally unbalanced and abusing children, to sexual abuse as well. It can be family members, it could be a stranger, it could be another kid in another class that comes up and attacks you. Who knows where it's coming from? You don't, and you are in danger. So what happens? Your psychometry kicks in and you're looking around like a scared mouse, trying to get someone to stand nearby, but is that someone standing nearby actually the person you're feeling afraid of? Or is it really a friend? You don't know, so until you impart knowledge by sharing. And of course, when you share, you trust. And if the person is fooling you, conning you, we have a lot of that today, telling you everything you want to hear and you want to believe it, you'll fall for it. And then, lo and behold, sometime later you find out that you've been taken on a ride that has brought you down on your knees because they have taken your money, or they've taken your toys, or they've taken your clothes, or they've ripped out all your money from under your house, or whatever. It could be so many things. And whatever it is, you're feeling lost, you're feeling violated, you're feeling abused. How can you find a balance with all of this? How can you understand that you are suffering not because of stupidity, but because no one taught you how to understand spiritually, to use your 5 psychic senses to be able to say, at the moment a person walks in the door, this is someone I don't need to interact with because they're not in my vibe. Sometimes people go to a hospital and they see 4 or 5 doctors before they make up their mind which one they want to do the surgery. These are people who have that knowing, that instinct, and they have to listen very carefully and make sure that the doctor's saying everything that they understand, have everything explained to them, so there's no shadow of a doubt. Well, if you're not psychically aware and you're not able to ask the questions because you don't have that inspiration, you're likely to just sit there, go, okay, and the doctor is not going to tell you too much of the details. For example, when you have a triple bypass, it is a very involved, long surgery. And passing your blood through a machine while they can get to the heart and do what they have to do with the surgery is a very interesting thing that the doctors can do. And I tip my hat to all surgeons who can do these marvelous surgeries. But we have to understand that that deep subconscious part of you back here knows that his hands are on your heart physically. It knows that your blood is running through a machine. I'm picking a very serious surgery because I want you to really understand that you have observed emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Yes, you could even have been out of body watching the surgeons. And that when you come back and wake up, you feel miserable or you feel tired and you just want to go to sleep, some more drugs and so on, morphine to take away the pain. And of course, it's numbing your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. So it's like someone asks you a question, Now, see me making faces. I did another show on this. We make faces all the time. For example, I was just pulling off my sweater because it's a bit cold here. And as I took it up, I could feel myself doing this as I pulled it over my head. Where did I learn that expression with pulling off a sweater? Probably in England when I was 3 or 4 and Mum's trying to undress me because we've just come home from somewhere and I need to be put in bed. But I don't remember that event. But I could rationalize that because I did that with my children. And I remember one child particularly complaining because I caught the edge of the sweater on, around the neck part on his ear. And it was stuck there and I'm still pulling because the neck area was rather tight when it was on him. He was outgrowing that particular thing. And he's like, and I said, stop fussing. And then I realized and obviously moved it and got it over his head. And that sweater went in the junk box because there was no way I was going to give him discomfort. Another time I had a sweater that I was very young that made me itch because in those days they used lamb's yarn that was just combed and put into threads and knitted because people knitted sweaters. You couldn't just go buy one. They weren't readily available. We didn't have knitting machines. We didn't have a lot of things after World War II. And so it was very much home doing, whatever wives, mums could make, like darning socks, these kinds of things. Now, your generation probably will never darn a sock, haven't even got any idea how to sew, and probably will never knit or crochet. It's a pity because the way of the world has come to take it for granted that everything you've got is throwaway and that you can always replace it. Unless you're someone into antiques, then you're interested, you want to keep them, but not because they're beautiful, because they're worth something. Wrong focused, in my opinion, because whatever you're holding on to means responsibility. And responsibility means guard it, protect it, be sure no one else takes it. And of course, we do have con merchants today and thieves, and you get taken for a ride and then you're angry. So let's look at the emotions here. What are you angry about? Well, When you're a child, you maybe one of your siblings took one of your toys and broke it. Well, that was pretty miserable for you. But that is a foundation stone. And so you grow up expecting everyone else to come into your life, promise you the moon, and take all your things away from you in some way, shape, or form. I'll give you a little memory here of someone that I knew was writing music. And I was fortunate enough to hear them play. It was very pretty music. And she immediately said to me, I have to copyright it. And I said, yes, we copyright books and things. I said, where are you going to go and do it? So she said, oh, I'll do it after I've shared it with people. Because she wanted more feedback on how good it was. Well, short version of that story is her music ended up, phrases of it, that we should say better, in someone else's music. And there was nothing she could do about it because she hadn't yet registered it as a copyright. So she was angry, she was furious, she wanted to take the person to court, but the lawyer said, you got no proof that you, even though you're playing it and we've heard your music and we can compare it, we've got no proof that he stole it. It was a man and she was a woman. So that court case never happened. So things are frustrating. So whether it's a court case, a husband being out with someone else, use your imagination, to the kids lying and cheating to you, to family members on drugs, and the list goes on. You are a part of their world. You are interacting with their world. And as much as you might say, I don't want to do this, I've had enough, you know, blah, 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 you are emotionally drawn to stay and cope. And that's because you have been taught from a very young age that you are needed in that family, you are wanted in that family, and you are loved and cared for in that family. So if you've grown up that way, you are going to immediately say, everyone you meet is part of your family. So whether it's a new friend, a guy at work or a girl, you're romancing that, you're thinking about how you can make a better life in some way by doing things together. And of course, if you're looking for a love partner, then you could be romancing that. And guess what? You're loading it with more than ever could be expected. When a person is asked to be 100% for another person, it takes away their freedom. It takes away their independence. Many people come to me with broken marriages or with children that are off the wall in terms of uncontrollable. I have even had to deal with a lot of adults around the world, because I travel so much, and it doesn't matter where I am. Yes, the cultures could be different. For example, in Egypt versus Peru, or when I was in Japan for years, I had to learn their culture. I had to understand the way they were taught as children to think of the world and their surroundings. So a metaphysician has to expand their consciousness way beyond the norm. And in order to go way beyond the norm, a metaphysician must have developed their psychic skills to be able to know how to channel what the spirit guides are saying. And when they are doing that, in my case, I could only really talk too much about me, I am so accurate that I'm telling the people what happened, that they're saying, how do you know? And I say, I don't know, but your spirit guides do, because they're watching you. And they're telling me because you were doing ABC and it was hurting you. And you shouldn't have been doing that. They wanted you to do XYZ, but you were blocking it. So you went down this dark tunnel and into this world of negativity. And here you are today trying to climb out. And so with that in mind, I'm here to help you see all the different perceptions in how you've held on to them, told yourself over and over again, this is what I have to do. I hate it, but I still have to do it. I don't see an alternative. I'm stuck here in a rut. I'm wishing I had more money. I'm wishing I didn't have all these responsibilities. I can't put them down because every time I try and walk away, they come back with, I need you. They come back with, they need me to do something, and the list goes on. Well, the first thing I'll say to someone is, what about you? You should be the one who puts you first. Because if you're not doing that, you'll grow weaker, and one day you won't be here, and those people you've supported and carried won't be able to manage their lives because you've prevented them from standing on their own 2 feet, trying the hard way, learning the hard way, but coming to know and understand the world better through that, and then growing out of the negativity into the light with consciousness that is aware of every day, every second of your life. Well, people say to me, how come you look quite young? And I say, well, I deprogram myself every night. I go to bed, I put my pterograms on, which are geode slices that I've had coloured, onto my chakras, crown, third eye, heart, solar plexus, base chakra, down where the privates are, and just lay there and meditate on my day. I'll muse through the day and say, I release it. And as I do, I can feel my body letting energy flow down my body and out through my feet, and mentally from there into the ground, because we don't want negative energy floating around in the house. Unfortunately, when people argue, that negativity goes into the walls, into the furniture, which is why feng shui became quite popular, because the idea was to not argue, get your house happy home. But hey, the reality of life is the furniture doesn't have a brain. And so, you know, as much as it's clear, if you're still focused on someone and arguing, then you're still blocking your throat chakra. And we speak about it. We tell everyone, oh, my husband, my daughter, my guy up the street, whoever it is, they were this and they were that, and they didn't do and they should have done, and I have to and I couldn't and I want to and I don't know when or how, but I'm trying. And hear me? Okay? That's how your conscious mind is running all the time. And the more you repeat your stories and the more you tell everybody about it, the more you're embellishing it with those subconscious memories that are just pictures. And the more you talk about those combined with the current situation, you are mixing them up. And given time, let's say 2 months, 3 months later, when you are asked, well, what exactly did you say and do back 2 months ago? You'll and say, well, I was complaining and I was angry and I was this. Well, what's the details? What did you actually say? I can't remember. Because you see, the subconscious doesn't reawaken the current times, okay? But the deep subconscious will give you some jarring, sort of jolting image by pushing energy through the subconscious to bring that forward into your conscious mind. So metaphysical psychologists are looking at the way you think, and they are looking at your conscious, subconscious, and deep subconscious. They're looking at your 5 senses. They're looking at your body language, which we call NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, where we can see if you stoop, how you sit, how you stand, how you hold your head, how you express your face, how you listen. You know, we all listen differently with our ears. Some of us listen with our left ear to close sound and our right ear from far apart. Others do the opposite. There's no telling how your brain decided to store all that you know in the brain. Many years ago, they decided that the brain had certain area here in everyone for a certain condition of mind to speak and express self. But now we know today that every individual brain has neurons that run all over it. I won't be too technical here, but if you want to understand more about your brain, do get an anatomy book or from the library and study it, or go online, of course it's easier, and listen to someone talking and teaching you. The brain has its own mechanism to repair itself, these tiny, tiny little axons that come and go to a site, for example, if you've had a bleed, and try and help that neuron to repair itself. But sometimes we can get too many. It's like you being in a square in town and you faint, and suddenly everybody swarms around you to help you, and you feel suffocated because there's just no air around, with so many people all about you going, what's up, what's up, what's up, and you don't know, and you're confused and worried and so on. Well, that's what happens to a neuron if we get too many axons there. And so what happens is they blog up that neuron. So it's very important to keep yourself healthy, and I have many different ways to teach about that, but I'm not doing that today. So here I want to point out that when you are rationalizing consciously, pulling up your images to remind yourself from your subconscious, your deep subconscious self is trying to correct mistakes. In other words, wrong assumptions, wrong approaches to how you see things yourself in this world interacting. Now, if you are open and aware to your psyche, that gives a door for your spirit guides to send you an image from your deep subconscious from them. So let's say you're worrying about how to pay a bill and you have no money, and you're thinking, I have to borrow from Auntie Sally to get this bill paid, and out of the blue you suddenly have this image of you running down the street and seeing a car on the corner and not realizing why you're seeing that, and just think, oh, I should drive my car down the road to get some groceries, and you transform that into a consciousness of reality and now. But maybe it's not that at all. Maybe in 3 days' time, when it's getting very close, you have to pay that bill. Your friend who's coming down the road to see you brings in her car another friend who happens to be a financier, who is coming for tea and who starts chatting with you, just socializing, and then you mention you've got this issue and you find out what they do, and hey presto, they've got an answer and you've got a way to get out of your situation. And you take notice. Why? Because you had the image of the car and coming down the road to the corner of your street. Okay? Spirit doesn't say, okay, do this, do that, do this, do that. They're not allowed to. They're only allowed to guide you by inspiration, by motivation, by your creative energy, to get some ambition for yourself, to want to go out and try something. And so they'll give you images of you trying or people coming to you. I was asking recently, I need someone to translate some of my books into Spanish. And I've been asking for the last 6 months. And recently someone came, and though I did mention it, I'm not pushing it, because you never do. I found out they're completely bilingual and do translations. But busy right now. But that doesn't mean because they're in my room with me now that they have to do it now. I'm not even in a situation where I could be doing it now. But down the road, maybe she'll come back and maybe she'll translate that. Not because I'm paying her, but because she wants to learn. Because by translating a book, you've got to read it. And when you read it, you learn something. So let's see what happens with that. But it is an example of how the oneness brings us connections with people. So when you pray, don't keep saying it over and over again, okay, because they heard you the first time. And don't get upset with your spirit guides if they don't bring someone right away, because you're not ready. You wouldn't be listening. You'd be judging it. You'd be making excuses. Well, I can't do that right now. I'm so worried. And you would get in the way of yourself, and you would prevent anyone really helping you at this time because you're still in the negative mode. So coming back to my idea of my releasing daily at night all the stress and troubles and trials and tribulations of just living one life in the time of COVID, you can imagine how the whole world is full of stress. And if you think about that stress now as energy floating around in the wind, in the sky, it's everywhere, you can see that we walk out into the world, and even though we may not talk to one person, we are being bathed in the negativity of the whole world. So it's also very important to understand that when you absorb free-flowing energy that's negative, you breathe it in, and without knowing it, that energy fortifies your negativity. And so suddenly you become twice as negative as you were the time before. So dumping negativity is very important, so that when you do go out and about, you can say, I'm empty of negativity. Now, how can you be empty of negativity? By closing down your chakras. I mentioned them earlier: crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus area, base chakra. But there's one more, and I've talked about these on my other videos, so please do go and look or listen to my audio show, because I put these up on SoundCloud as well as YouTube. So the spleen chakra runs from left side rear to right front side. I'm going to stand up. I always do this to show. Okay, so here on my hip bone and here on the front. The spleen chakra's job is to balance your emotional, mental, physical and spiritual energies throughout your body. And most people who end up with kidney problems, liver problems, stomach problems, bowel problems, adrenal problems, the list goes on, because everything meets in this chakra. And this chakra has two cores within it, one for the lower self and one for the higher self, where you're supposed to entwine what your wisdom is from the oneness and from your spirit guides with your lower self, which is your experiences, so that you can amalgamate your wisdom with your experiences to awaken to a new idea and a new feeling about yourself in this world. Over the years, because I started my life as a psychic at 2 years old and became a very famous medium in England by the time I was 24, 25, and even further in metaphysical studies by the time I was in my 30s, I was totally stressed. I had no end of people lined up wanting readings and help and guidance. I was hypnotizing people in those days. I was doing body work on them with my crystals, and I was doing Reiki and all these things that didn't have names in those days. So I was popular and overworked. And on top of that, I had a bad marriage and 4 wayward kids. So you can imagine, it was inevitable that I was going to overload my brain box and develop Parkinson's disease. And that's exactly what Parkinson's disease is. It's a worrywart who's given up their life for everyone else, sacrificed their own self-esteem, self-worth and self-value. And of course the brain controls the nervous system, and so it isn't long before the neck wobbles, okay, because the atlas and the axis is yes and no. So a lot of wobbling and shaking like this happens because the brain is saying yes I can and no I can't, constantly, all the time. At the same time, usually the left hand will shake from the shoulder down because the bones are out of alignment, and that means the shoulder, there's 3 bones that come together here. You've got the clavicle, you've got the humerus, and you've got the scapula at the back, and this forms a socket. Now if you're reaching out to the stars or you're reaching out to the floor, your brain is remembering every time you've put your arm out. And so it's inevitable that if you've been reaching out for help and you're not getting it, that you're going to start putting these muscles out and the bones go out and you start the trembling with your fingers and hand, okay? So usually you can see it on one hand or the other. It's only in advanced stages that you start to see the shaking all over. Well, as soon as I developed that, Master Chang, who's very ancient Chinese man for that life, but he's also many other incarnations as well. I won't bore you with all of that right now. But what he did for me was teach me crystal acupuncture. And today I've taught thousands, literally thousands of people how to do it. And I'm about to teach people again in the new year. So if you're interested in wanting to self-heal, we're starting there, with crystals, and you have crystals and you're interested in crystals, you can use your own crystals, or if you don't, I'll have the kits. And so we're going to do an intro thing. So eventually you'll be able to see how to join up with me on sumariseducationcenter.com. But it's not up right now, because since my husband died, everything's taken down. My books are taken down because my publisher also died a year later. So we're redoing all the books, we're redoing websites, so be patient with me, and know that you can get hold of me if you write to me, Professor, Prof, Margaret, Margaret, RVC, initials for Rogers Van Coops, at gmail.com. Professor Margaret, RVC, at gmail.com. Head it, I need your help, please. Leave your email, of course you'll send it by email. Leave your contact number, I'll get back to you. I do call people myself. All right, so coming back to other illnesses, MS, MD, these are mental illnesses, and they, again, because of the emotional imbalance in the person's life, has affected the body. But coming back to the spleen chakra that I was talking about, if that is out of balance, illness and disease eventually happens. My husband, a dear heart, really good, wonderful man, had all those things suffering because the medicines the doctors put him on for the heart repair were killing the rest of his body. And even though he knew that I was a metaphysician and I could give him the herbs and the treatments and all the things he needed, which I frequently did, by the way, treatments, to give him an extra 15 years of life, but he would not come off those medications. And so I was fighting those for years. And of course I watched him deteriorate, because those medicines do actually kill the kidneys, the liver, the pancreas, the spleen. Okay, so you see the ads on TV all the time. Oh, smiley face, I can be better if this and that. But then comes the thing, if you take this, it can be lethal. They're saying that now. And it will give you liver complaints, spleen, a whole list. And then it says, talk to your doctor. I've just watched all that. Why would I want to go and talk to my doctor about that pill if it's going to harm me so much? And I tried with my husband many, many times to get him to understand it, but he had in his head that the doctors have the medical pill that cures. Well, today they don't, because science has gone wacky, as I say it. They're just, somebody's in a lab experimenting, they may have a genuine feel they want to help the world, but they're fiddling around with compounds of drugs. And augmented drugs come to that as well, and they brag about it. But our bodies were not made for these drugs. Our bodies were made to work anatomically with the brain and with the good quality of the digestive system in enzymes, and with all the repair things that you need throughout your body, so if you hurt yourself, to recover. And back in the old days, 200 or 300 years ago, if you got polio or pneumonia or things like that, what did they do? They send you out to the countryside, away from the smoke, so that you could have some sunshine and wash and bathe you regularly, keep the germs off you, and have you breathing fresh air so that you can get those lungs working and so on. Well, we knew that we're destroying this world, and I was very happy to see no plain trails in the sky for quite a while. But hey, it's Thanksgiving, And there's millions of people flying, so there's loads and loads of planes up today. What's it going to do to our earth and to our atmosphere? You know, it's wonderful to see family, but if the mode and ways of doing visiting is putting chemicals into the atmosphere that are going to kill us when we breathe it in, we have to learn that something has to be sacrificed. Well, think of the pioneers. They got in a cart. They went from New York to California. It took years, but they did it, and they succeeded. We have to realize that we can get in a car, or we can get on a bike and ride there if it's local. So exercise and thinking about what you're doing is very important. I spend a lot of time after I have counseled them and recorded it and insisted that they listen to it over and over again and write notes, because the brain must see it outside of the head. So you write down everything that is given you so you understand. Your brain sees it and says, aha, this is important. Because that's how you were taught to read and write. This is important. At the same time, if you hear someone talking and they say something that's very interesting, write it down, because you've heard it, it'll go into your subconscious and you'll lose it. You may remember the gist of the conversation or the brand of something they're talking about, but you can't remember all the things they said, because your brain is busy processing that with your conscious mind that's saying, oh, I could buy that up at that shop, and I could go there on Wednesday, and maybe my son will drive me, and all these different things that you're thinking while this person's talking to you that they've got a good product they advise you to take. You're missing what it does, how it does it, why it does it. And of course, when you get it, you read the label, but it's not all in there. So again, go online, double, over and over again, check, several sites, until you absolutely know what you're taking and putting in your body. The body should be a balance between acid and alkaline through the digestive system. Most people who die of cancer and things like that have been too acid, and they've been eating the wrong foods. So eating whatever you need to eat is good if it's natural. And right now, with the virus everywhere, it's on the plants, it sticks on your clothing. So all this mask wearing isn't stopping you from carrying the virus around on your body. It's not stopping you from breathing it in. And it's definitely not a wild creature that's going to torment your body. If your body is unhealthy and you breathe that virus in, you're giving it an anchor, somewhere where it can survive and live off you. Think about it that way. Which is why I teach all my patients and people to take colloidal silver in distilled water in the middle of the early morning, say 6 when you go pee, and then go back to bed until 8, and then get up and eat your breakfast and put back your prebiotics, which are basically your enzymes throughout your digestive tract, and your probiotics with meal in the morning. You need to do that because colloidal silver kills every bug, every worm, every amoeba, every virus, the list goes on. Your blood is pure. It also cleans all the plaque from your blood vessels, veins particularly. So you want to be a nice, clean, squeaky person inside. Colloidal silver does it. If you need to know more, I have a book that we're going to call Bugs No More, because if I use the words, Google takes it down, but it's free from me, channeled by the Brotherhood, Siddhartha Buddha, Rama, Master Chang. There's a whole bunch of people, even Jesus and God. So if you want that book, write to me, Professor Margaret, rvc@gmail.com, and just say, I'd like the book on COVID at the top in the line. I'll see it immediately, and I'll send you a Word copy. And yes, you're free to share it with all your friends, anybody online, and if there's anyone out there who speaks another language who'd like to translate it, yes, please share it too that way and send me a copy so I know that I can share it too in another language. This is something the Oneness has given me, and it's there for you to have for free. All right, so winding up here, I want you to understand that once a person has had all the coaching and counseling from the Oneness through me or anyone else who's a psychic and a medium and a healer, the next step is to put you on the table and do the therapy work. Now, I'm not going to go into all the things that I do, but I want you to understand there are many therapists out there who are really, really good at what they do. Now, they may include hypnosis, they may include meditations, they may include psychic reverie, where they're going on a pathway and you're visualizing. They may include modalities that allow you to go to sleep, just put you in a deep state of sleep so you can get out of your stress and trauma. So that's of the mind. But remember, the mind has been controlling the body. So therapy, massage, doing your lymphatic system with pressure, acupressure, reflexology, doujinsin. There's so many different ways to move energy through the body. I have taught and trained many people to do crystal acupuncture, my pterogram therapy for the chakras. Crystal acupuncture moves the energy through all the meridians and the brain, and when it's done, you are not the same person. You let go of all the negativity and you're left with the positive to rebuild. The stones used all have different abilities in the way the molecules transition. The stones light energy of the healer as it passes through to a musical note relative to your body to retone your body into a new vibration. Again, I can't go into all the musical notes of a human body at the moment, but sometime I'll make another show on that. And so once you've had the different therapies, and you may have to go many, many times because you've lived a long life and you've got lots of SHIT, I'll say it that way, in your body that you don't need. Now, you know that you have to go potty every day. You need to realize you have to dump the negativity every day. So this is why I say I lie at night with my pterograms, which is my name spelled backward, by the way, but it is also in it are anagrams for agate and other things that you can play with and have some fun doing. So when we registered all my therapies, because I had to protect them, you can also find the books online. They're still up. Some of them aren't because my publisher died and my husband died, and we're redoing them thanks to Katie Kamara, my partner now. So we're being patient. It's very difficult. So many different things happening now in the world and with our lives. So, be patient too with us. We're trying to get you what we can as soon as we can. But going back to the books, Breakthrough Therapies, Crystal Acupuncture and Pterogram Therapy is on Amazon, and it's the blue book with a person sitting there with the pterograms and doing the fingers. So you'll be able to learn in that one all the theory, and then that's the pink book. And then the blue book, it's called the Book of Crystal Acupuncture and Pterogram Diagrams, is where you get the pictures and see the points and know which part of your body to work on for a complaint, such as pain in the spine, or you've just had your teeth done, or you've got cancer. There's from serious to everyday little itty bitty stuff that you can treat yourself with those two books. And those are still up on Amazon. But a lot of my books have been taken down because, as I said, the republishing was done by someone else and they passed. So we're currently updating and getting books up, and I'm still writing more. All right, so having shared all this with you, I want you to understand finally that the combination of all the channeling and counseling and sessions in understanding what you're dumping so that you can let it go, combined with all the treatments on a massage table, whatever they may be, with whoever you're working with, trust them. Trust them that they know what they're doing. Now, if you don't know anything about that healer, therapist, counselor, ask around, ask them for testimonials, ask them what kind of work they've done and what's their history. Even ask them for their resume if you want to, so you can see how much they've studied and where they've qualified and so on. Be sure that you feel safe with the people you're going to work with. You can't walk into a medical doctor and say, show me your resume. They've just got a plaque on the wall. Actually, I have many plaques on the wall. I had to take them all down because I've got hundreds of some of them sort of congratulations for working here and doing this to my actual PhDs and professors. So there's a lot that one goes through in order to be accepted. And you have to realize metaphysicians have gone through a very lonely pathway when medical doctors put them down and said, what you're doing is rubbish. And today, more and more people are understanding that everything that we do is vital to a person's emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual growth. So on that note, if you want to have a conversation with me about yourself, if you go to easypeasysolutions.org, there is information up there. Leave a question. Katie Kamara, my partner, she's always checking them, so she would let me know if there's anyone who's put a message there that they're wanting help or wanting classes. I'm going to teach psychic development in the new year and crystal acupuncture and pterogram therapy. Not the same day, but I haven't picked the days yet. Probably be a weekday. And when I do that, it will be intro level, and anyone who wants to go further will go into, for intro level, it's like do it on yourself and help yourself, to beginning the course 1 through 5 on becoming a therapist. And so on that note, I'm going to leave you to process what I've just said. If you have any questions or you want an appointment with me online, that can be done. As I said, write to professormargaretrvc@gmail.com. My secretary will find it and tell me, and then I'll call you back. Make sure you leave me your phone number. Okay, so thank you for listening today, and please do take care of yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually first. Because if you don't, all those people you care about will be left behind because you're not there anymore. You're ill and you can't help them anyway, or worse. So fix yourself, get strong, be happy. Know that once you understand all these things we've talked about, you can, by choosing to study or just read books, know more and be better for the people you care about. Take care. Enjoy life. After all, life is here for us to have fun. All right? Bye-bye.